reinforce the phonics skill or the vocabulary or whatever it is that you're working on that week. So know that those are available. This is what the website will look like. We'll do that later. There are some picture cards for language building. There are 2 flip charts for your literacy stations. I don't know if you had any literacy station suggestions with that other reading company that you were using. Did you? I don't think you did, right?
No.
Okay, yeah. So, did you?
But they weren't our teacher charts, they weren't really theirs.
Yeah, these are for their do you call them center stations? Learning stations? Okay. So these are for your learning stations. It's the activities. It tells you what you need. So when you're doing the level reading, you have access to literacy station ideas. Okay? And then there's
teamwork activities?
no.
The language builder.
Oh, sorry. Where are you at?
What's that?
The top one.
Oh, yes, those are the literacy stations.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so those are the material, yes.
For the stations, how much stuff do you need? Because I think a lot of us are worried about having to create.
Oh, no, you're not gonna have to create anything. No. And if you ever need ideas for stations, I'll give you my email. We have so many easy ideas. What you wanna do for your literacy stations, I don't know how involved you are in them, but you wanna find a literacy station that the directions and the activities stay the same, where you just change the content. Work smarter, not harder. Kids like routine. You don't want to spend a lot of time explaining how to do them. You want something that they can do independently, that they've done. So then you just switch out the content. Don't go making all this stuff. You know, if you're doing a word building activity with whatever phonics skill, you drill and kill that till they know how to do it independently. You want to do it over and over again so they know how to do it. And then you don't release until they can do it independently. And that might take the first 3 or 4 weeks of school. That's okay. It's better to do that now in the beginning. You teach them those literacy stations like mad because you will save yourself time. I know a lot of you are concerned because your paraprofessionals are going bye-bye, right? So you need to figure out what you're going to do. The best thing is to front load them, front load like crazy. Take time in the beginning to teach every station that you want, because we provide you with some, but there's going to be some you're going to add. There's a couple gaps that I noticed that I would add. So you want to teach that station so they can do it. So then when you're doing the guided reading, you don't have the tap, 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 I don't, none of that. And I drill it. That's the biggest mistake. I've done teacher induction programs for years across the United States. The biggest mistake is not taking enough time in the beginning of the year, not only to teach literacy stations, but to teach your routines of instruction, which is what this book is. Your phonics routines, your fluency routines, your close reading routine. All of those routines need to be taught. That is what you need to do the first couple weeks of school. Also, not just for the kids, for you, because you kind of sort of forget. Like, I know back in the day, we would teach phonics, and just an example, let's say when you slide and you want them to read the whole word, I would say, read the whole word. And then the next day I would say, what's the word? And then the next day I might say, swipe, or read. That's confusing to kids. You might not have ever noticed that before. It's confusing. They need to be worrying about the content, not the directions. So you should be using the same words all the time, the same triggers, the same everything. That's explicit phonics instruction. That's how they then focus on the content and not on when should I speak, you know. I mean, it could be a snap, but whatever. You know, sometimes I tap my table or whatever it is, but those routines are in here. So if you follow those routines, your kindergarten teachers are following them. So when they come to first grade, they already know it. They know they're going to sit on the floor. They know what words you're going to say and all of that. And then when they come to you and you're doing the more difficult phonics, again, it's the same. You have the response that you're looking for and they're not confused of what to do. So that's where a lot of reading programs are missing the boat also. They don't have that consistency across grade levels. And then when they start doing it for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, next year, it's seamless, just works, and it takes a year for everyone to notice that connectivity. But you'll see it, and you'll be like, oh, what have we been doing? Now, look down here, those decodable readers. Here's the other great thing. So in addition to your decodable readers, online, there are some printable ones. So I know me, I want more decodable readers. I'm on Reading A to Z. I'm stealing my friends' codes from their book companies and printing their decodable readers. And I love decodable readers because I want to send them home. I want them to write in them and highlight. And of course, those decodable readers, they can't do that. So we do have black line decodable readers, and they are the traditional ones. They're still a little better than other book companies, but they are your traditional, we have them here somewhere.
The decodable oh.
Yeah, there's a book here. What'd you say? No, it's a teacher manual kind of thing. It says yeah, there we go. You brought it up. Oh, and they're in there, but you don't want to copy from there. What you want to do is go online and copy them because they're so nice when you print them. You do have this. It has the decodable readers in here. But again, they don't copy as well as online. But if you like the traditional, it's here.
When you print those off, do they print off perfectly so you don't have to, like, you can make them right away after you printed them? Or
Yes.
you have to cut them?
Yep, they have them sectioned so you can do your little foldy, flippy thing, and it's really easy. Because you know how some of those can be challenging.
They were.
I spend
What we
like,
had.
yeah, I know I'm on Reading A to Z sometimes, and I don't know, it takes me hours to figure that out.
I don't tweet it out right now.
Okay, so we're gonna stop there and take a 10-minute break.
Or I guess I can do the laminator over lunch.
I can do this. I'll wait until we get, I should get them.
Yeah, you get them going.
Say,
I ran
For the guidance.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, 6 times 6. Those are 6 units. It's a lot of
Okay, can I have your attention quick before we get going here again? First of all, I hope that all of you have signed this. If you haven't, I'll make sure to do that, because this will go towards some clock hours if you need them, and also this is how you're going to get paid today. So it's important that you might think, well, I don't need the clock hours or whatever, but you need to sign this then to get paid. So make sure to do that. Thank you, Naomi has left. That was the wonderful treats. I wanted to make sure to try all 3, so I did, and they were all 3 were very good. So you're welcome. Yes, I did that for her. So, and then I was going to introduce you to Mike Scott. I don't know how many of you know him. Is he still up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's farther
Mike?
out. I can't hear you.
Mike, I was just going to introduce you now as your new title. So you may not know Mike.
Yeah, that's true, I mean, not.
Yeah, this is Michael Scott. He is our new Director of Teaching and Learning. So you're welcome. He is the one who's paying you today. So
Today? You're gonna get it today?
anyone else? Did anyone not sign this? He is going to take these then if everyone has signed these. Okay.
Yep, Ann took the other ones to, make sure they signed it.
Today, you're taking it.
He'll have cash by the end of the day.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so everyone's refreshed, awesome. I was just complimenting the group a couple of minutes ago. really need to pat yourselves on the back. You are very focused and very emotional teachers because you really care about your students. I can tell just by working with you because you're really talking about how these things can be used in your classroom and in your lessons. So that tells me that you're really thinking you're ready for a change and you're really excited about the program. So I'm glad to hear that because it's important to you and I want you to like what you're doing and I want you to understand what you're doing. Okay, so we're just going to move right along. We're going to take a little peek back into our red book and we're going to look at some of those routines. So if you look on the PowerPoint for just a moment, these are all the routines for all these skills that are in this red manual. All of these routines are in there. So if you're unsure of how to teach something, there it is, it's in your book. So if there's an area that you're like, oh, I'm not really strong in something, go to this book because this will really help you become a better teacher at whatever area, or you may not have any, but it will really help you become a stronger instructor using these routines. So we're going to talk about close reading for just a minute, and then we're going to look at these other routines. So this is your cue. Close reading is vital to your instruction. So I know it's kind of a new thing that's sort of coming down the pipe. You've heard about it, you're like, oh, what is that? If you've been on Teacher Pay Teacher, I'm sure you've never heard of that, right? If you've been on there, you probably see little things about close reading, and you're like, what is that? I'm not real sure exactly what that's about. So can you tell us about your class, if you don't mind taking a few minutes?
Honestly, when I signed up for the class, it was titled The Threads of Reading, Reading Strategies.
And
when
can I interrupt you for a second? It's different from close reading.
Yes.
Every time I'm somewhere, people think it's the same thing. So let me say, close with a Z is different from close. Okay? Everybody thinks it's the same until they're like, what is she talking about? So close is the reading where there are blanks and the kids fill in the blank in like a story or something. Close reading is all about comprehension. So I'm sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to clarify because people listen and then they have no idea what's going on. Go ahead.
And then the book was all on close reading, and it really was geared probably 3rd grade and up, but I think we can use the strategies for even kindergarten. I guess I would say it's reading intentionally and purposefully and teaching kids how to pick out things as they read. Different strategies with it, like highlighting, reading it several times, and using maybe Post-it notes, or they have a lot of anchor charts with symbols, like maybe they call one the aha, and maybe you put an exclamation mark there. They had one, you might circle the vocabulary that you're unsure of. And then I don't know if I'm saying it right, but on some of the anchor charts for the upper grades, it would say when you find this moment, this would give you the theme. Or when you find this moment, you are inferring, or this is foreshadowing. Whereas I think kids would get to the test in those upper grades and they didn't know, how do I find the theme? How do I find some of this? But with all of that practice and talking about it and finding it, they just automatically will notice and take note of it after you've practiced it with them.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm going to just read, this is something I pulled off of the Common Core website. Close reading is the instructional practice of having students critically examine a text, especially through multiple readings for different purposes. The intent of close reading is to read analytically to extract the implicit and explicit meaning of a text. Close reading through focused and sustained reading and rereading allows students to gain deep understanding of a text by identifying the purpose for reading, determining the author's purpose, developing a schema and conceptual understanding of the text, fostering discipline-based knowledge and skills. Asking text-dependent questions is critical. Finding evidence and supporting is what you do in close reading. So basically, it is, first you do a first read of a text. Let's say you start to set the purpose. Why do you think the author wrote this story? All the things you typically do. And the first part is for very basic comprehension, almost for enjoyment. You read through it, you ask a few basic questions, you're done. The next day, you might say, remember that article that we read about penguins? That article was fascinating. And you literally say, we're going to do a close reading of that article today. So everybody take your articles out. We're going to read just this paragraph today. And then you do something with it. Now, you do not have a close reading routine in this book, because I'm the only genius that has realized it's not in there. I keep seeing it in the teacher's manual, and I've read this entire teacher's manual. I've really read it like 1,000 times. And every time I came to close reading, I'm like, oh, I know what close reading is. And then I went to look for it. It's not in there. It'll refer to it on BP page, whatever, and it doesn't exist. So I'm going to give you a copy of this. But I'm just going to walk you through one of the close reading routines. Before I do that, I want to say that you mentioned an anchor chart. National Geographic wants you as a grade level or as a school to determine your anchor chart. Now, and like they didn't say there was one specific one, right? That's right. So you kind of have to create an anchor chart. What that means is this. After you go back and you read through the close reading section in the next couple of weeks, you have to decide what is going to work. And it doesn't have to be the exact same. Put it this way, whatever first grade does, it should be the same, but then maybe you add on. I wouldn't change it, I would make it the same. So when we say anchor chart, it means this. On the chart, you would put a circle, and beside it, a key. And that might say words that you do not understand, or that you do not know. So as kids are reading, they know I'm going to circle words I don't know. Another thing is, a question mark might be a symbol. And the key could be something you don't understand in the text. Another one might be a blue highlight for main idea, or a yellow highlight for details. Do you get what I'm saying? You have to determine what works for you. And it may be that in the beginning you start, remember how I said go super slow? Super slow. Super slow. So your principals, they need to know this. Everything's not going to happen the first couple of weeks. It's not all going to be magic, because you have to get to know this program. So your anchor chart, that first week of school, might be one thing. Kids, when you read, you're going to circle words you didn't understand, or words you don't know, however you want to do it. That's just that one thing, but it needs to be consistent. So that's the one thing that we're not giving you, because you know your kids, and close reading varies, but I would keep it the same. Does that make sense? And then after a couple of weeks, you can add to that anchor chart. Do you guys have a poster maker here? Do you know what that is?
I just have one.
Poster maker.
It's over at the middle school.
Oh, so the poster maker is great. It's expensive, but you know, if you have like a parent organization or something, I don't know, but
Yes.
okay, so they're a lot of money. However, anything that you have, like a Word document or a PDF, in color, the poster maker will print it. Ta-da! I don't know why. You have to get one of these. This is
Quit looking at me.
fabulous.
Make me feel guilty.
I know, they're so good,
Should've told you.
because if you had that anchor chart, right, after your, right, so you don't have to draw it, you can have someone that's beautiful with Word, make a chart, and you're gonna, put in the cute little symbols, for all of your things, have the key for it, and just print those babies out on color, and, because, you know, we want our things to look cute also. So anyway, so that's what you need to do, is create an anchor chart to use for when you're doing your close reads. So the one routine that's not in your red book says the purpose of the second reading. So this would be the second reading. Have you heard of annotating? Okay, a lot of people think annotating is for middle school and high school kids. It's not anymore. Annotating can start in kindergarten. Now, when I say annotating, I used to do a lesson called like tracks in the snow. I would think that, you know, you want them to make tracks in the snow as they read. This is the snow around the story. You want them to be writing over there. So on one of your anchor chart, it might be an arrow. And that arrow means an aha moment, or I really loved that part. You might have an exclamation point, and this part made me really excited. I love this section. So along the edges, they would put an exclamation point. That's where they put their question marks. So they're marking up this text like mad. So that's what you want. You want kids actively involved. And that's active reading when they're writing it and marking up the text. So this is the second reading. It says, now, when you go to do these, you don't have to make this stuff up. National Geographic will give you and will lead you through the questions for the close reads. So you don't have to just come up with it. They will guide you. The questions will be in your manual. The questions will be on the page. This is like a close reading that you can pull offline, and it's in your books also. So they will guide you with the questions. But as a teacher, of course, you're always going to add in your questions or something that you did 3 weeks ago. You might feel like, you know, they didn't really get that. I'm going to do that. You can still use that same text. But the kids need to have a copy. So, of course, you would model what you want them to do over and over and over. And then they would start to gradually, you would release your control, and the kids would do it. So here it says, prompt students to reread the complex text, focusing on identifying text evidence that will help them answer the following questions. So they would have a couple of questions. You would do one at a time is what I would do. One question. Now, of course, first and second, the comprehension isn't as, you know, we're not doing foreshadowing. So, and you're only going to have maybe 5 sentences for them to choose from. So you only want a piece of that. You might even in the beginning tell them it's in, if you have, let's say you have 10 sentences, you might say it's in the first 3 sentences, it's in the last 2 sentences, to guide them through this process, because they're not going to be used to going back and finding the evidence. So you would present them with a question. They would take whatever your code would be, maybe a highlighter. I have a lot of teachers that like the different colors of highlighting, and they would find the answers and highlight it in their text. So you can have things like circle keywords, underlining, write questions, or just a comment in the margin, and you would model that. You would read, you know, penguins live in, I don't know where they live, Antarctica. Wow. I bet it's really cold in Antarctica. I wonder if they get cold. Huh. And then you would write that. I wonder if they get cold. And so you're modeling all of that for them. And, you know, one of the biggest things is when kids question what they're reading. That's how they comprehend, is when they start to question. They may never find the answers, but that's the questions. And then it says, as students grow more accustomed to the routine, allow them time to annotate their text during their partner discussions, and then ask for volunteers to share. So in the beginning, you're modeling, you're doing it. You may only give them 1 question to do for however many weeks, whatever works for your students. And then eventually, you want them to do it on their own. You could do it with a partner first, then do it on their own, and when they're finished, they can share at their table. Everyone, you know, tell one thing, that one of the comments that you wrote. You know, share those out, and then they're learning from each other. Questions about close reading? Was that kind of give you a little better idea of what that is now, because you're gonna see that a lot. Okay, so here is your job. So we have all of these routines. So I want you to have a partner. And let's see, how many of us are there? There's about 20 of us. I want you to choose a partner. You're gonna pick one of these routines and teach yourself one of the routines. Now, each one has maybe 2 to like 5 routines. So just pick one routine that you're going to do, that you liked, and then you're just going to share out. So we all get an idea of what one of these routines are. Okay? Have a partner? Are you guys working together? Nope, you can have it. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you can join them. Is that good? Okay.
Just happy, I don't know what. I'm getting ready.
Who's your partner?
I'm sorry about that.
Okay, I'm One great question, so thank you very much. So we're gonna go around, and I promise, only 1 minute. Take a minute, and your group is going to share your routine with the whole group. Now, pay attention to this part, because this will give you some guidance. This is saving time for all of us to go through and sort out all of these things. And I know there's so many things, but I'm working very hard to kind of go through it in a manner that will make sense to you. And your questions that you had were awesome, so hopefully things were clarified. So we're going to start with phonological awareness. Who had that?
Oh, awesome.
Awesome. Can you just stand up and just tell us a quick snippet of a routine and how we would do it?
Well, we don't really have the sound boxes to show it as far as role modeling it. But you wanted us to stand, is that correct?
I mean, you don't have to.
Oh,
I'm sorry. You
standing.
can sit.
We can hear you.
No, we can hear you.
There were just quite a few, there were quite a few routines, and one that we've done in small group would be, how many sounds do you hear in this word? And then decide, of the 4, like, different word boxes, you hear 3 sounds and so on. And then to put a chip, when they feel like they've mastered they'd put a chip or a little foam rubber thing on there. And then we would go on with the A and finally the T. And we were just wondering, because Katie and I both have kind of done this the same way, and we went into the other routines. There's no place to really write it down in this book, but that's what we've had the kids do.
That's because it's phonological awareness. There's no writing. It's all
So
oral.
you just listen and listen.
Later you will do it in the phonics component.
Yeah.
But in the phonological, it's all auditory. So there's no writing. And I was having a conversation with a couple teachers over here. Phonological awareness is a difficult thing for a lot of students. Many students that have learning issues in reading are because of the lack of exposure and instruction to phonological awareness. It truly is. I've done tons of research, studies, and things on that exact issue. A lot of kids are not exposed to that, and so that leads to problems later. So if you're going to skip something, we all skip things sometimes for whatever reason, don't skip that. Do not skip it. It's super important. But that's why you don't write it down, is because it's only auditory. Okay, decoding. That's us.
We are, for ours, we're using the sound cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it's a lot like the sound boxes, and you have the word written for them, and you show them each sound, and they repeat the sounds, and then finally say the whole word. So it's practice blending, it's.
Right, and that's
It's
different,
phonics.
because with phonics now, you are connecting the sound to the letter. So that's kind of the difference between the two. Dictation and word work.
We had that one, having them listen to a sentence and saying the sentence really slowly and giving them time to write it, using the word wall for the high frequency words for help, and then you write the sentence and have them check it, and then circling any misspelled words and rewriting them correctly.
So that's where a lot of the writing comes in with that. Now, keep in mind, National Geographic, and this is good for teachers to know, does not have the high frequency words on cards, like you would put in your pocket chart or you would put on a word wall. They just don't have them. I'm not really sure why, nor do they have the vocabulary ones pre-printed. Now, in the practice book, they do have little ones for the students, okay, so, and they have them online for the students. So you could either take that online and print it large, you know, if you increase the size, you could print it, or you could find alternative places for, to find those cards. You probably have some ideas of where you could find word cards printed already that are cute, that you could just print up. But for some reason, National Geographic doesn't. That's one of the things that I don't like about the program, is they don't have those for you.
Did we compare these high frequencies with the ones we have, or Mover?
I have a list that I can send you that has which ones are fry, which ones are dull. Do you care about that kind of a thing?
Yeah, would you send that?
You know what I mean? Do you want me to send that to you? And then,
It's in our
yeah.
workbook.
Yeah.
Ours, second grade has the word cards in them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, that's
They're
what I mean,
little.
yeah, you have the little ones,
They're itty.
but you just don't have the big ones that, you know, teachers like to put on their charts. So, I don't know if anyone's ever suggested that to them, but you could, you know, easily fix that. It's an easy type, you know. Okay, corrective feedback and reteaching.
This is gonna be the student.
Oh, I like it.
So I'm reading a sentence and I say, this is men
Oh,
toy.
there was something there that tricked you. Let's take a look at that. Put your finger. Mine. Now you do it.
This is mine toy.
There you go. That's not the right sentence, but that's
That's
the
right.
right
Thank you. That was perfect. And it's important that you all use the same corrective feedback. So when they go from your classroom, I don't know if you do any switching of classes, but if they go from you to even the paraprofessionals, it would be really good for them to understand the language that you're using so that they're using the same language. But being consistent with that is super important. Who had high frequency words?
You know, before,
Yeah.
the corrective feedback and reteaching, isn't that sort of like, Nancy, the full class comprehension that we've kind of, that we're doing, where the kids read a passage, they go back and the partner corrects.
Pals? Pals?
Yeah, one of pals, yeah.
Oh, is that the one where they read it wrong?
I don't do pals.
That's not that, is it?
But if their partner sees it.
Then they point it out. Okay.
Yeah.
Stop,
Okay.
that word is,
Yep,
go
got
back
it.
and,
Okay.
that word, go back and read.
But
Yeah,
there's
that is
really-
similar. Mhm.
There's real, yeah, it's a real structured, what they scripted, that's the word, you know, for what kids, partners say to each other,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah.
And the good thing about that program too is that then the students have to learn to track. You know, there's actually a program out there where they have teachers read it wrong and kids find the mistakes. It's horrible. Why would you ever want to read anything wrong? Okay, high frequency words?
All right, we kind of focused on routine 1, but it goes right into routine 2, and it's spelled out very step-by-step in your teacher's manual. So there's usually like 5 keywords that are covered in a lesson. And so what you do is you look at the word, you listen to the word, you listen and think. The teacher, I think, to begin with, you would say it in a sentence. The teacher would give an example of that. Say it, spell it, say it, use it in a sentence. So, again, it goes back to that whole teaching the routine over and over again until the kids can do it. And it is, that same routine is basically used on the word builder program that you showed. So we'll go right into that partner activity or daily 5 time where they're just doing an activity on the computer. So.
Great, thank you. Reading. I know there were lots of routines.
We had lots of questions too. We just
Okay.
looked at one. They have a 5-day lesson plan, which I'm not really sure you would get through. But this
Is that
is
for the level reading?
Yes,
Okay.
this is for your level reading. So you introduce your book, students read it independently on day 1. You could do that at your table, or your higher groups you could send off. Day 2, they reread the book with a partner and work on their graphic organizer that you've been working on the full group. And then day 3, you're supposed to introduce another new book and start over, and we just talked about, we didn't know how realistic that was, especially in the beginning, and depending on your groups.
Right, so,
Typically you would move through it.
yeah, National Geographic has available 2 level reading books, and they recommend 2 per week. Now let's face it, that is not very realistic for a brand new program your first year. So I would not expect you to get through 2 books in a week. Now, some of your kids may be able to do that. Or, if you have a group of students that were really working hard on guided reading last year, and now they come to you and they're pretty used to this whole learning stations while you're doing guided reading and the transitions and all of that, you may be able to. Your groups are very different. So it just depends on your group. But I think if you could do 1 leveled reading book to start per week, and there's enough things to do, I think you're good. But if you are a go-getter and you want to start a 2nd book, you can. But you have choices, so that's one of the good things. You have tons and tons of choices. Okay, we're going to skip over speaking and listening. What did you all do?
We did, we picked a level reading routine where we're connecting across text.
Ah, my favorite. So tell us about that.
So you take a heterogeneous group of kids, so like a group of 4, but they're all reading a different book. And they're still focused on that big question, but then they're each kind of summarizing and presenting information that they got from their book. And adding to that background knowledge that they've now sort of integrating that into their own.
Yes, so listen to that, because when we get to level reading, we won't have to go over this again. We'll just kind of skim over it. So on day 5, so we're talking about day 5, level reading, guided reading. Prior to that, remember, all the books are related in some way. There are questions that will relate to all of the books for that week, or for that unit. On day 5, now you mix the kids up. So your blue birds and your red birds, or yellow with your green birds, however you do your little groups. So now you get them heterogeneously grouped, or if you have tables, I'm not sure what you have, if you have regular tables of heterogeneously students, they come back, and now we have a graphic organizer that you're going to see. It says name of book, and I say, what book did you read? I read Penguins. Okay, I'm writing Penguins on my sheet. Now she's going to tell us about her book, and I'm going to note take.
Can I interrupt for just a second? Is
Yes.
that the graphic organizer that?
Connect across text.
Yes.
Okay.
The one that says connect across text.
So
Yep.
each student has one of those,
Yes,
and they're writing about the other kids.
correct.
Okay.
Yep, so each student will share out about their book. Or sometimes the activity will be tell what the main idea was to your heterogeneous group if that's something you were working on that week. So it's a really great opportunity. Now they're making text-to-text connections, because I can say, in my book, we talked about what my animals were eating also. So they get super excited about it. So now your lower students can relate on that comprehensive level that your high kids can relate to. Because a lot of the companies, the books have nothing to do with each other. The books are random and they can't talk to each other about it. So now they have that opportunity to have academic talk, speaking and listening practice. They're using their vocabulary. They're getting to hear it again from someone else, and it's all relating back. Did you have a question? Oh, sorry, just a stretch.
I have one more question.
Yes.
So, now, when you're introducing this
You mean like
graphic
day one?
organizer,
Oh, the connect across
yes.
text one? Okay.
so when you're teaching this in the beginning, are
Yeah.
you doing this as a whole group activity with examples? I mean, like, okay, you guys read Penguins. What could we write? Would you do it together and have them practice that way in the beginning, or how would you?
If it was me?
Yes, how would you do
Okay,
it?
so if it was me, I think I would do it at a small group table and model it then.
And what are your rest of your kids
Yes,
doing then?
they're gonna be in their literacy station. And I would model
And
that.
so it might take you.
On day 5, I think I would create, today, on day 5, you're gonna work with just your table group, not your bluebirds and your greenbirds, and I'm gonna call you guys up one by one. Because they're so, little.
Well,
They
they're
really
gonna need a lot of help.
and-
Heterogeneous group or
Yes.
a reading group?
The heterogeneous group. On day 5, that's what I would do. The first,
One-on-one?
No.
yep, so I would bring this table up. Bring your books with you, bring what you've been reading this week, bring it up. And I would strategically teach them that for however long it takes. Some rooms, you might only have to do it twice. But if you have to do it for 4 weeks, the benefit of doing it for 4 weeks outweighs the, go do it, and they can't. And they don't feel supported. You want to provide that scaffolding. And then you can pull away before you send them off. Okay, this week you're going to do it on your own. I'm just going to hang out. I'm going to hang out and watch you. And help. That's what I would do. Yep. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Make sense?
I don't even know if this is the right time to bring it up or not.
It's okay.
But we have in Unit 6, I think it is, a substitute book that is not on the list.
Oh,
Ah, lucky you.
I put a note on all those.
Okay.
When I
I'm
came.
just,
Yeah.
you were talking about how the books are so closely
Yeah,
related.
that's a rogue book probably.
So it's not something we need to panic about, because I think it's like generosity and it's,
Kindness and generosity.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So do you know
Do
anything about
you
that,
have
or?
your 16 books though? I don't know, no one's mentioned that before. Do you have your whole 16, that makes 17?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea about that.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not extra, it's a supplement to.
It's a
they-
substitute.
Substitute.
No cooperation, just kindness and generosity.
Yeah,
Sorry,
We're gonna be kind
I'm
and
just
generous, but they're not
using
gonna cooperate.
book titles. I didn't mean anything other than the names of the books.
Yeah,
Okay, you don't know.
I don't. I wish I did, sorry.
So I guess that's second grade, I just want them to
To know
understand,
that.
and,
I put them
How many
in the thing, I put them in their mailbox
Okay,
and I
so
put
that's
a
the
note.
challenge.
Go
That's
to
right,
this
yeah.
page in your teacher's manual, make a note right
Yep,
now.
that's okay. That's okay, we'll talk about this now.
Try.
Yep, no, it's okay. So let's just talk about level reading now since we're talking about it. I have things for it later, but we'll do it now. So, guided reading. Every classroom is different. That's always the trick with guided reading. Whatever system works for you may not work for you. Some people do the bell every ding, switch. Some people do the, turn the little thing to know what centers you're going to, like a little chart, or move your person, and when you get in that day, you know what centers you're going to. Whatever system you use, you have to use a system. So in the past, if you haven't, stop and think before school begins of what works for you, and make it easy, 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 easy. And make it where kids can't move it, because kids will mess with it if you don't have that experience. And if you don't have it written down, if you're moving your little people and it's about this high on your wall and they can touch it, they're gonna touch it. And then if you say, wait a minute, didn't you do phonics yesterday? No. I swear I saw you in phonics. They don't know. They're so confused, they have no idea. So whatever system you use, make a system. If you do the little bell or whatever on your phone, the alarm to rotate, fine, just make sure you have something. You want to kill that routine for many, many weeks at the beginning of the year until they are like soldiers. And when someone's doing the right thing, you need to make the biggest deal out of it. Like, Johnny! Oh my gosh! Immediately when the bell rang, Johnny moved to his next station. And look, he put all of his papers in his folder. Oh my gosh, Johnny, I'm so happy. You need to make it the biggest deal in the world. Because then you know that. You get repeat customers. They all want to be Johnny. So you have to really emphasize what they've done correctly. And then, of course, if there's something going on, you need to stop it right then, because kids will get distracted. So that's when you immediately stop and have a consequence for that, because they'll never learn in the beginning. Your stations need to be modeled, and they need to be something that they are able to do. If you pull up one of the flip charts and you're like, my kids cannot do that yet, I know they can't do it, then don't use that. You're not going to put something out that they can't do. Doesn't make any sense, because you need your time. And make sure they know, do not come, you cannot come over here. Cannot bother me. You have to go ask 3 people, have a designated expert that week or something like that. But they can't bother you. You're busy, it's so important. Reading is so important, I can't be bothered. Now, the number of groups, well, that depends on your students. Of course, all these reading companies say, 3 groups, you'll have a below and on and an above, and it works perfect, and it's just so smooth. Well, every time, like really, first of all, I don't even know if I have books for that many. I have 6 books. So what if I have a 7th kid? What if I have 7? You're gonna have 7 in one of those groups, right? It's just gonna happen. So you just have to figure out what you're going to do. I would not meet with your high kids every single day. It's just not realistic. We were talking about that. Can you meet with well, if you have 5 groups, let's say 4 groups. Let's go in the middle. If you have 4 groups, can you meet with every single group for 20 minutes every single day? It's physically impossible. I would definitely work with your low kids every single day. You cannot miss them. Every day you have to work with those kids, every single day. And then you have your next low kids. You need to work with them every single day. And then your other groups, I've seen people do it a variety of ways. Sometimes they work with them every other day, and they keep them at their table that whole time and work with them. I've seen people, let's say you 2 are the higher groups. I might work with you guys for 5 minutes, like a touch-base conference, and you're going to do the rest of your guided reading work right there on the floor. I can kind of peek over at you. Now you guys are going to come up, and we're going to work for 10 minutes maybe. Going to get them started on something, and they're going to go work on it. It might be the comprehension skill. It might be filling out the graphic organizer. It might be partner reading. It might be whisper phone reading. Do you guys have whisper phones? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it might be something like that. So that's what I would do, and then work with that group. So you could kind of still see both of those groups, but it's for a short period of time. I prefer that than totally skipping over and doing every other day, because I at least just want to touch base and see what they're doing, instead of just saying, go read your book. I want to give them some kind of a focus. You can say, go read your book today, but get a piece of paper and annotate 2 of the pages or something like that. Yes?
One of the concerns the district has is that our top kids are not progressing as much as they should.
Mm-hmm. This will help. This in general will help, because the complexity of the text is richer, is more rigorous. So the academic vocabulary is richer, and the explicit instruction of the comprehension now, it's going to provide them with all these metacognitive skills, like wow, I never knew I was thinking about what I'm supposed to be thinking about when I read.
But I'm getting at the
So-
point that if you're not meeting with them every day, those kids deserve time with the teacher just as much as any of the other kids, and we often shortchange those top kids.
Well, I mean, I guess you can look at it, I don't really look at it that way, and I guess that's a personal opinion. Those high kids, if you're you want them to be independent. The goal is to read and gain meaning from text independently. So if you're still meeting with them and touching base with them, and then sending them off, and you know that they have that skill, I really think that they're fine. I don't feel like it's shortchanging them, because they're able to comprehend it independently. Now, I wouldn't just say, go read.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think touching base with them for a shorter period of time is okay. But you'll see a big difference in those kids, because they've never been exposed. Like their books, I don't know where those, their books are much more complex on that higher level. Like an F is so much more significant than an A, that you'll really see the difference. But I know where you're coming from and how you might think that, but I don't know, I kind of think, and you can meet with them every day for the same amount of time.
Well, you don't have the time to.
Right, exactly.
We have
Uh-huh.
complex books here, so I guess.
Right.
I'm just struggling with the fact that they don't get to have someone there guiding them. Just because you're a top reader doesn't mean you're necessarily an independent reader.
Right.
Our goal is to have all kids become independent, but
Mhm.
there are low kids that are independent workers, but there are top kids that are not independent
Mhm.
workers.
Right, and so if you know those kids, you may have to find time and change just those couple kids out of those high readers. Because I agree, just because they can read doesn't mean they're really understanding it. So that might be a different group. Yes.
Did you partner with someone for guided reading during that time? Because we're used to having,
I
what,
know.
12 groups?
I've done it so many different ways in my
10
life.
groups, 10, 12 groups, 10 groups?
Yeah, I've done it in, wow, that's a lot of
Yes,
groups.
so they were all at their
Yes.
level.
Together.
Oh yeah, you're probably not gonna have 10 groups. I've done it a lot of different ways. I've done it by myself. I've done it where the Title I teacher came in, or the literacy coach came in during your guided reading and pulled like a group and rotated from classroom to classroom. But then every classroom has to have their guided reading at a different time so that you can utilize those resources. I've seen that before, and I've seen it on your own. So I've seen it both, and I've done it both. But like I said, when it's on your own, you have to make sure that everything is in line. You have to be ultra organized for that to happen.
So you had a pretty big range in your groups?
Yes, because I always get stuck with, but you know, the kids that struggle because of my reading background. So I would always get a big cluster. Sometimes I would cut it up into 2 groups, like 4 and 4, if I'd have like 8 low kids. And a lot of times I would pull, like first thing in the morning, I grab and
I
try to,
guess not the amount, I'm thinking like if we only have 4 groups,
okay?
you're gonna have like a level 8, 10, 12, 14 together.
Well, you may have to kind of go in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not gonna be exact. And these books are real books, so they weren't written for that level. So, you know, there's gonna be a little, you know, there's not really a big difference between like E and F. You know, between that, there's really not that much difference.
I would say in a normal year, I have, because we've been doing it on our own for a couple of years, and in a normal year, I have between 5 and 6 groups. I never would only have 4. I have 5 and 6 usually. Yeah.
There's always that one kid that doesn't even fit with your lowest tuition.
Right.
And I don't know if you ever do any
and they
sharing.
And then if you do have one
We had like
child,
10
just
to
do it
12.
during
Right.
that lesson.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's also, you know, sometimes you have to think out of the box. You have to be creative. Like, if you're doing guided reading, at the same time I'm doing guided reading, and I have this outlier kid, do you have any outliers? Or is there somewhere, you know what I mean? But that's a district and a school decision, of course, but, I mean, we're all